Hey family, Kevin here with woodworkfamily.com, and in today's video I'm going to show you 5 different ways on how to fix a sticking door. But first, if you are new to this channel and you'd like to get more videos like this where I'm showing you how to do things around the house, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I look forward to hearing your comments in the comment section as well. And be sure to stick around to the end because that's when I show you my favorite way to fix a sticking door, making sure that it will never stick again. Thanks for watching. And now let's take a look at some of the tools I'm using today. From left to right, I've got a wood chisel. This one is 1 inch in diameter, chisel and hammer, and then a handheld screwdriver. And I've got my cordless drill. This is a 20-volt DeWalt, so there you have it. Those are the simple tools that I use. For starters, let's talk about some of the reasons why doors stick in the first place. As you can see, the door is comprised of the actual door itself, but it's also attached to the house using this jamb. When the door itself is touching and dragging against the jamb, that's because it's offset, it's sagging. And so that causes it to stick because of the friction of the door itself touching the jamb. This door right here is a wood door. It's an exterior door, and what that means is it's a lot heavier. It's got glass in it, which adds to the weight, and that will allow it to, over time, pull away from the hinges and towards the knob side of the jamb. If you can see the space around the door, you want to keep that space as close to consistent all the way around on all 3 sides. And what that'll do is make sure that it's a really easy open and close. This door right here at one point was sticking so hard, the deadbolt was like sagging so much that it was dragging on the bottom of the hole and it was actually getting stuck in there. I'm going to show you the way that I fixed this door, and it's been fixed for some time now because this fix actually was super easy. It took maybe 10 minutes to do. Let's go inside the house to take a look at another door that's sticking and how we can fix it. This door seems to be touching right up here at the top. It's not very much, but it is enough to be significant and not be able to open and close the door very easily compared to the rest of the jamb spacing. If you take a look over on this side, you're going to see there's more of a gap, and so that's a good 1/8 of an inch plus that is up at the top. And then as you get lower, it still is a good enough gap. Down on the right side of the door, there is a gap, but it's less, and then it tapers up to where it touches at the top. That's what causes the door to stick. I'm going to go through a methodical process on fixing this door. The first step of that process is going to be to tighten down the hinges. Just simply using the screwdriver, handheld screwdriver. You don't want to use an electric drill because that could strip the screws. It's really easy for it to pop out, especially if the screws are all the way down. I've already done that once before on this door, so I know that even though I've tightened the screws, which do tend to come loose over time, I've already tightened these screws and it's still starting to stick. So I want to try the next step. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull just this side of the hinge off and chisel behind that. So first I'm going to just remove the 3 screws on the hinge plate side that is on the jamb. I don't need to worry about the door side, so I'm only going on the side with the jamb. Pop out all 3. Okay, and I'm only focusing on the top hinge. You only need to work on 1 at a time, then test your work. First, I'm just gonna make some lines to get a grip on the wood with my chisel. You want to make sure you get all the way around, even in the radius. Try to get that as close as you can to being the same amount of wood being taken off. Let's pop that hinge back on. And to do that, I'm making sure I go back in the same holes. You can see that the hinge is sagging. The door is sagging because that hinge is out. So I'm pushing with my hand on the door, holding it in place, and then just screwing the first screw in, and now it's in place. Pop the rest of them in, ensuring not to strip out the screws. This wood is pretty soft, and so it makes it easy to strip the screws. Now let's test the door. Oh, that's a lot easier. I don't need to lift up on the handle to keep it from scraping. So that is enough of a gap all the way around. You can see there's a bit of a gap at the top now where it was touching. It's no longer touching. And that's all it took. Just pop those 3 screws out. Chisel behind there. I only took about an eighth, less than an eighth, I'd say closer to a 1/16 of an inch. It's really close. It didn't take much, but whatever amount of wood I chiseled from behind the hinge, that's how much it moved the door to the jamb side, the hinge side of the jamb, and that took away from the gap on the other side. So that's all you really need to do to fix this interior door. So that was how you chisel behind the hinge. You only really want to do the top hinge. That's all you need to do. Typically the door is going to be sticking at the top. It's more likely to stick at the top than the bottom, and that's because the weight of the door and the centripetal force as you're swinging the door is causing a force on that hinge, and it's going to mostly be the top hinge. So if you just start with the top one, but if you feel like you're taking too much wood away, try the middle one. Usually you don't need to, but sometimes you do. Never know. Every door is different. Every door was installed different. The next thing you can try is planing or sanding the edge of the door. One thing that does is it takes a very fine layer off. After you do that, you want to put another coat of some kind of sealant, like a thin layer of paint, on to make sure that the door doesn't expand with the weather, the moisture in the air, or the temperature changes. You still want to seal up that edge, but you can use a sander, like an orbital sander, and also a hand planer. Those are not necessary for me to use on this door today, so I'm not going to show you how to do that. But if you wanted to do that, all you have to do is pop the hinge pin out, and then you take that door and you want to stand it upright and vertical, like laying on the hinge side. You may need to take the handle off to do this job, depending on how much of it you need to sand or plane. But once it's sitting vertical like that, it gives you the edge. With the planer, you might be able to do it on the door or while the door is on the hinges. The only problem that you run into there is causing a lot of dust in the house or in the room that you're in. So if you're not worried about making a mess, it's easy to clean up, or it's not in the way, it's not a problem, then go ahead and try using that orbital sander on the edge. I recommend, if you want to use a planer, you want to have the door secure, so like clamp it to the edge of your workbench or to a sturdy surface so that it stays upright and perpendicular to the ground, and that way that'll give you a chance to just take enough of that material off without taking too much. And now let's go back to that exterior door to take a look at the last 2 methods. And stick around for the last method, because that's my favorite way to fix a sticking door. Method number 4 is adding longer screws to the hinges. We're going to take a look at exactly what this does and how to do it. You're going to find out that this is a lot easier than you may think that means. So that one's about 2 inches long. That's another one, maybe 2 inches or above, probably about 3 inches long. And what that does is it allows for the screw to go past the jamb and into the stud, which is part of the framing of the house behind the jamb. And so if you use long screws, 2 or 3 inches long, it's not going to hurt anything because it's wood back there, but it's actually going to help, and it's going to secure the hinge to the actual house and not just to the jamb material. The screws that normally come with the door, let's see if we can get one out. They're not long at all. So that one's probably about 3/4 of an inch. And that's the standard size that comes with pretty much any door and any hinge. That makes it easy for the people manufacturing the doors to just pop in really short screws and boom, boom, go ahead and put the door on the shelf. But if you change that out, then with the longer screw, you want to do it on the side of the hinge that is attached to the jamb. You don't need to do it with the door side. In fact, if you decide to do it on the door side, make sure you drill a pilot hole. Even though I used a longer screw right here, the 2-inch screw versus the 3/4 inch, the size of the head is the same as the size of the 3/4 inch head, which allows it to sit flush on the hinge. You want it to be as flush as possible. Obviously, you don't have to get it all the way down, especially if you chisel below the hinge. What that does is it makes it so that the hinge will close without the heads of the screws hitting each other. Go ahead and take one of the screws out before you go to the hardware store and tell them you need a screw that with that same type of head, that same size, but about 2.5 to 3.5 inches long. It doesn't matter if it's the same color, just works out that these gold screws that I use are the right color for this hinge, and they also have the same head size. And now let's take a look at my favorite method, and that is a combination of 2 of the previous methods that we talked about, which are chiseling behind the hinge and adding longer screws. This will give you a double benefit because it will add extra security with those longer screws, but it will also make sure that the door is less likely to sag over time, causing it to stick. When you combine these 2 methods, you actually increase the longevity of the door, and the likeliness of it sticking goes way, way down. So let's take a look at how that works. I put about 2 long screws in each hinge, only on the jamb side, but I did that for all 3 hinges. And what that does is it adds to the strength and integrity of the hinge side of the door. It was a super quick and easy fix. Pop the old screws out, put the new screws in. I used about 6 to 8 screws for this door, which is, it didn't take very long at all. Maybe about 5 to 10 minutes max. And then chiseling it out is an added bonus because it helps the door close a little better. Well, family, there you have it. Those are the 5 best ways to fix a sticking door. Hit that thumbs up button down below and let me know in the comments what your favorite method was. Have you tried any of these in the past, and did they work or not? Or which ones do you feel like is going to be the most successful for your sticking door at home? And also, I'm going to leave a link in the description for all the tools I used today. Thanks for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.